Hi, I'm Holly, I'm a writer, and this is my video about writing my book. I'm going to be talking today about, I should have gotten comfy, but I didn't. Basically, I'm on chapter 7, which is the last chapter of part 1. I've decided to call them Act 1 and Act 2 for reasons, because it's like performance. So I've written 3,000 words of this chapter. Usually a chapter's about 2,000 more words than that. However, for a first draft, I think that I'm in a place where this chapter is ready to sort of be ended in this like writing session. So I'm recording it. I did say I was going to record like all of my chapters. I didn't end up doing that because that was just like ridiculous, because I don't finish a chapter very quickly because it's 5,000 words. So depending on like the writing session, that's at least 2 writing sessions, probably closer to 3 or 4. But what I do want to just do is do this bit, because the first act of this novel, I mentioned this in like the outline bit, but the first act and the second act are very distinctly different, in the sense that the first is, you know, it very much is like the plot is like in play, but it's not quite as like, there's sort of hope, right? The first one, there's like glimmers of good in there, and like the second act, it's a lot more raw. Like the whole point of it is that, you know, you find out in the second act exactly what she's afraid of, and like you basically therefore from that moment onwards are understanding in a way that you weren't previously of exactly why she feels the way that she does. And her mental health is like the worst, because in it the way it's hard not to say without spoiling, but basically this chapter, the very end, like the last line, is going to be like the complete reversal of any progress that she has made towards the middle point of the novel. So this is, I've talked a bit about during the outline, usually the midpoint of a novel is one of the most consistent things. If when you were a kid and you were in like school learning how to write stories, you may have gotten like a mountain with like, you have to do like a thing at the beginning of the mountain, you have to do like halfway up the mountain, you have to do one at the top of the mountain, and then like on the way down. The midpoint is pretty much something that's in like every story structure, because that's when you want the stakes to be not obvious, because they should be obvious before then. In this, the way that I've done that is I've tried to show her mental health decline. I definitely have to do it harder. I think in first drafts I always struggle to really make my protagonist suffer, so I need to up it a lot more. But I try and make it so that you get like a sense of who this person is personally, and then just like make it so that you understand that they're afraid of this, and that this is something that probably is actually at stake. And then you realize at the midpoint exactly how close they are to losing it, right? That's something that you really want to do in general, is like you want the midpoint to be when a lot of things go wrong, if there's going to be something go wrong. This is usually when a relationship in a romance might be going really well, but it is to sort of be the calm before the storm, because there's usually like a third act breakup or a miscommunication or something like that, blah 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 blah. Or in the case that that's not what you want to do, you would have it in the midpoint. It's very common. You can see, for example, in The Bell Jar, which is one of my favorite books, it does kind of something similar to this, in a sense that like, I think it's about the first half of the novel, she's not in the hospital yet. She goes to a hospital in the second half. If you count that as a spoiler, fine. It's like a 60-year-old book. Sorry. But I think I just moved the desk, sorry. But like the midpoint of the novel is usually when things change. Like you think of like the Hunger Games. I think literally like the first half of the Hunger Games is usually before they've even gotten to the arena. Like the circumstances sort of shift during the midpoint, usually to give you something new to be interested in, and that's what I'm doing. This is the project, by the way, if anyone's new and doesn't want to get like the whole backstory, but they're interested in how I transition from this midpoint stage, from like one thing being true to like a new status quo, basically. Basically, sorry, my cat, as I said, she was here. So did I say that? I don't think I did. My cat was here like a minute ago. And her hair is just, it's like shedding season because it's getting warmer. Oh, so I've got hair everywhere. I've probably got hair all over me. Yeah, black shirt too, lovely. But basically, I'm a little itchy. And she was with me all night, so I've been itchy all night. And I'm only just putting together the fact that that is probably why I have been so sneezy, despite the fact that I literally wasn't before. But basically, I describe this project, if you don't want to like go through all the stuff I've done before it, as being, it's like the second act of the Short and Sweet tour by Sabrina Carpenter. If the singer doing the tour was Alex Mahone from Prison Break. That's how I do it. Specifically series 2 and 3, Alex Mahone. Series 4, things get a little different with him. He kind of goes through a big life change because that's kind of like his midpoint, you know? But we're gonna go, I've already written in my journal what I think I might do at the end when I finish like writing the novel fully, like not just the first draft, but the whole thing. I've been keeping my journal every single day, even the days that I haven't written anything. I have written in the journal either why I didn't write or just I'm not writing today. So I might like post like pictures of like every single journal entry. Obviously obscure stuff if I feel the need to, for like spoilers or just personal stuff. And basically I'm feeling really good at this point. I've had like a major crisis over this book for the past few chapters, and then like the last two I have just been like everything is just so clear in my head now, because I'm at the point where this is like one of the chapters that I had the image of right at the very beginning. And so this is one of the chapters that like I know what I'm doing. I'm going to share this now because this isn't a spoiler. She's got a... Okay, so I have her go onto a talk show, and I wanted it to be obvious that this is like the kind of talk show that she's on. So I've called the show Hef Buyers. Because I was like, I'm not spending ages coming up with a name for this guy, and I kind of want it to be like the name of like a real show. And I was gonna call him Jimmy because I know that there's like 3 Jimmys or something in America, but I went with Hef Buyers because I just thought that was like so stupidly funny. Like it literally, it's just for me, but I don't care. Like a serious part of the novel where like stuff is really happening. But yeah, I actually wrote a song on the spot yesterday. Not yesterday, the day before. I literally was like, I don't have any lyrics for this song. So I wrote it. And then I was just like, this isn't bad actually. Like this is like the best one that I've written. Like this feels kind of like it makes sense, you know? So I'm getting better at the songwriting. I'll maybe go over the songs at some point in the future if that's something that people would be interested in. And like kind of, because I will have to revise them at some point. But I came up with a full album's worth of songs. I've got, I think, like half an album for Act 2, because I decided to put the names of the songs on the album, because the acts, Act 1, Act 2, they're named after the albums. So I decided to put all the songs on the album in the order that they would appear in the album underneath the like Act 1 title, just as like a cute little thing, because I think that again the songs, I've said this before, it was something that I had the intention of very much at like the beginning, the songs, and specifically like the lyrics, the vibes of the songs, even if they're about something else, they're about like what's going on inside of her, and they're kind of like a manifestation of the feelings that she has and that hasn't really been acknowledged. And then the second act, the album that is, it's very different. Like she has acknowledged, specifically she decides to write an album because she realizes that she can't really go to therapy, she can't deal with her feelings like the way that, you know, most people would, and so she decides to do it that way. And I think that is like, it makes sense. So I'm doing that and it's 6 o'clock. So I'm gonna just try and get this finished, and then basically my method, I'm gonna talk about this now because if it's 6 o'clock now, chances are I'm not gonna want to talk because my dad's gonna be home by the time that I finish writing. But basically, I know how I want this act to end, and it's one of those moments where it'd be like cut to black, and then I want to go to the second part and it's gonna have a kind of time skip, and she's going to feel very normal about the changes that have happened, but you are not, because you've just found out about them. So I'm hoping that it will kind of show in the normalcy that she sort of surrounds herself with in this situation, that maybe she really needs help. And also I think that you will get like the build up to that final moment very well, and then it will kind of transition. What I do every time that I write a new chapter, or if the end of the chapter is really significant, I just read it, like the outline. So I like to check as well the next chapter so that I make sure that I'm setting that up if it's one that needs to kind of, you know. So this one, she has a performance. I've slightly changed this because I wanted her to be on a talk show. So I've added like a little bit to that, but I had like a pretty good, like I'm pretty happy with that chapter, like, to be honest. I think I've like the difference in the messages that I've left for myself in my diary, where I'm just like, I don't hate it, kind of hate it, to that felt good, I'm shocked. Like I think that it's normal to doubt yourself during a first draft. You just have to push through it. I really hate this first draft, but I'm pushing through it anyway because I know that a lot of that's in my head, and if I was to read it over, I probably wouldn't hate it as much as I do when I've just written something, and when I'm like thinking about it. And then the next chapter is, it's a very different, like it's a flashback, but a very detailed one, because this is like the history, right? So the next chapter after this one is when she is back on tour after her break, and she's writing new music. She's just released the deluxe version of the album, which I literally wasn't even gonna do, but then I was like, this song feels like it'd be more of like a deluxe. Because I'm just planning like a whole tour, like I'm planning her outfits, I'm planning the stage, I'm planning the drives me mad, to be honest, because I'm like the least musical person ever. I mean, I get annoyed at other people when they're like out of time, because it's like, it's not that hard, but also I can't sing, I can't really dance. I'm doing my best and I'm taking it really seriously. But yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go and we're gonna hope that this is like good. I think that my advice, if you're in a similar situation, would be to think about like if you were reading and you're at the middle of the book, you've got just as much work as you've just read to still read and write. What's gonna make that worth it? What's gonna push you on to the end? Because if nothing changes, that's okay. But like, to use an example, it could be that you write about like somebody coming to terms with their sexuality, somebody coming to terms with you know, grief or something like that, and the midpoint, like that sort of moment could be when you decide to have their like I'm fine shield kind of break down. It could be when you decide to have them realize and acknowledge that they're not straight. It could be that you have them, you know, there's a book that I came up with the idea for, which I think is going to be like one of, I mentioned before that I had like a book that's similar to this, but about an actress. I think, I imagine these to be like sisters, right? I think they're triplets, because this other book is very similar in the sense that it's about famous people, two people, a couple, and they're basically a couple filming a romantic film together, right? And everyone's like, oh my god, you're like the best couple. But the book is going to be about like the way that this filming this romance sort of changes their relationship, because I think sometimes when your relationship that's been behind closed doors for so long becomes like a very public thing and you start having to pretend to be in love on camera, it would change a lot. And so I think that the midpoint is probably when they're going to have a lot of like important realizations about what this film has actually like done for them, and like specifically addressing these changes in their relationship that have come about as a result of this. And I think that, to give, you know, an example of Formation Lab, my first book, that is split into two parts as well. And the first part is her first year in the sport. The second half is her second year in the sport. The first half, it's more about her being a rookie and feeling very out of place. The second half is more about her trying to get good enough to compete for the championship, trying to push aside her relationship, which is becoming ever bigger of a problem with this other guy who she used to be friends with, but who now they really don't get along. And so there's a shift in the dynamic, and it's not that that hasn't been like present before, but it's that suddenly becomes like the problem. You know, it's not just like a thing that sometimes irks her now, it's like an actual full-blown thing that she has to throw every bit of energy into. And I think that when, you know, you get to that midpoint, that's what you want to be doing. You want to be like pushing yourself to open up a new door so that the audience is like excited by it. And I think you would get that if you went through like a bunch of novels. Like sometimes the halfway point is when everything that was going really well falls apart, and that's because that's like what you're supposed to do. I would advise looking up like the Save the Cat and 3-act structure, 4-act structure, these sorts of things. Especially like you can look at examples of like famous stories, films, TV shows, books that use these structures, and there you can see like what the midpoint is on stuff that you recognize. Read a book and be like, oh, this is because we're in the middle of the book. When you get to that point, it's gonna start to change and everything's gonna get a little, you know, and that's where I'm at basically. And so I'm gonna do that, and I'm really excited and I'm feeling good about it for like the first time in weeks. And I've just in general been kind of getting myself together because January was, but I think I'm gonna just go write, and then if my dad isn't home, I'll get back. Otherwise, I will maybe wrap it up tomorrow, honestly, or something, or like, I don't know. But I think, you know what, I might wait until I've written a bit of chapter 8, because I think that this progression, the point is that it's like, you don't want it to feel like a different novel completely, but also it's not wrong for it to feel different. I don't know, I'm gonna go do it and then we'll see. Okay, I'm not gonna say too much because I really can't, but that did go, in my opinion, well. I wrote 2,000 words, I finished that chapter, and then I'm gonna set up the next chapter in a second because it counts it as word count and I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna write my word count first and then, but yeah. I did that thing where I tried to make it feel like a natural progression, have it introduced and then sort of build and get worse and worse and worse until this point. I don't know what to say. I think I've already said quite a lot. I hope that that is helpful. I think what I'll do is I'll see how the next chapter goes, and then I might add on to this. If not, I'll leave this here, in which case you won't see any more and you'll know that this is like the end of the video because of the time. But yeah, I want to say thank you for the support on this project, because there are a lot of people who have been giving it a lot of love. I feel really good about it. I actually have a querying update that I want to do because, to be honest, my mind is just not on Formation Lab right now. It's not to say that I'm giving up on it, which is why I want to do a full update, but I'm feeling really good about this, and I feel like this chapter has just solidified the feeling that I had before I started writing, that this could be really good, where I feel like the way that it's going, like I know what it is, I just need to get over the first draft fears. But I'm gonna say goodbye, and I'll see you, I guess, either in the next video or in the next clip, if it is the end of the video.